Hello, hello, hello.
I love your sing-songy when we come back on. Hello.
Hey, hey, friends. How's it going?
Don't answer that, guys.
Okay, anyways.
Welcome back to another episode of See You on the Other Side.
Today we are talking about... What are we talking about?
Well, the long-awaited episode, and I think the most important episode we've possibly ever done, maybe, especially for beginners, is literally tripping for beginners.
Love it.
Psychedelics for beginners.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
We get a lot of comments on our social media. How do I do that?
Right. How do I get started?
Yeah, where do I start?
And I feel like we've done a few little tidbit episodes similar to this, but this is like we've got notes and we're going to like bang them out.
All right, let's get it popping.
Let's bang them out.
Let's get it popping.
First question for anybody who is interested in learning to work with psychedelics or learning to use psychedelics is, what is your intention? That should be number one, because we get a lot of people who are like, oh my God, I do mushrooms all the time. Not the way we do them.
Yeah. Do you, Brooke? Because
Brooke?
I don't know. I don't know Brooke. I don't think.
I don't know
so
Brooke.
I'm not targeting
It's just a
targeting
name.
any
It's just a
Brooke. But it's like, okay, Brooke, you just go to concerts, which that is totally
One way.
fine. And that can be your intention.
Totally. It doesn't always have to be this deep psychological healing thing.
But oftentimes we get comments like, oh yeah, I did that in high school, and then I went to a party and it was like the worst experience of my life. And I'm like, well,
So many things.
yeah, so many things are wrong with that. And it's not a one shoe fits all type of situation.
Right. And it's not a black and white answer. So when people ask us this question, we're like, oh God, like, how do I answer that? Because are you talking about how do you microdose? How do you macrodose with friends? How do you do heroic doses? What are you trying to do with this? Are you trying to have fun? Are you trying to feel the subtle differences? Or are you trying to go fucking deep like the psychonauts do?
Yeah. Well, let's say you are trying to do a heroic solo healing dose.
Okay. If that's your intention.
Give an example of what intention setting for that atmosphere would be like.
Well, I feel like that would be different than your intention in doing it. Because if your intention is to do some deep, deep healing work, then you're probably going to have a different intention for that journey.
For example,
mine and I believe yours,
yes.
our first ever heroic doses, our intentions were to let go.
Yes.
I'm a former control freak. I still am in some ways. It just helped with the parts of the controlling that were affecting my life.
And I was a former angry little elf.
So yours was like letting go of...
Mine was letting go of like anger, letting go of resentment, letting go of people that I felt like had failed me.
Yeah.
And what I like about broad intentions when doing a heroic solo journey is that if it's so specific,
you're kind of putting expectations out there.
That where it's like, for me, letting go could pertain to a lot of different avenues in my life that weren't serving me.
Yeah.
Not just one specific thing.
Right.
So.
And I think a lot of people will go into, and if you're new here and you don't know what a heroic journey is, we'll get to that in a minute, but it's probably the dose that's not going to be fun.
No.
Not probably. It's the dose that's not going to be fun. This is the dose that you don't want to accidentally do when you're at a festival with your friends or a concert with your friends or whatever. But I think another intention for someone to do like a heroic journey or a larger dose would be like, I would like to stop drinking alcohol. I would like to work on whatever trauma I have from my childhood. Like those are really big intentions. And so if your intention is to, I just want to explore the benefits of microdosing, that's a great intention.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start from there. Microdosing is like the smaller doses. Yeah. If your intention is, I want to go to a cabin this weekend with my girlfriends and I want to feel connected and I want to have fun, then that's a completely different dose too.
Right. And we took a gram and then we went to a concert, and I don't know if you had an intention, but my intention was to just like be in the moment and be present.
Yeah. Have fun.
And have fun with the people that I love.
And connect with, that was exactly it.
And connection. Yeah.
So, and it doesn't even have to be like, you don't have to like speak that out.
Yeah.
Like just know that when you're doing it, that's why you're doing it. Yeah. I think intention behind a lot of things matter. Like intentional drinking, intentional coping, a lot of things.
Ooh, you can use intention with everything in life.
Literally everything. Like
working out.
Why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you have body image issues, or are you doing this because you're trying to be healthier altogether?
Personally, it helps me with my rage, so.
I love that. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those.
Right.
It's just know what your intention is before you do anything, really. Like, am I drinking this alcoholic beverage because I like the way it tastes? Or did I have a rough day and I'm just trying to turn off and tune out and shut down for a little bit?
Am I eating this burger and fries because I'm wanting to binge eat and eat my feelings? Or am I doing it because I'm going to savor this food and
I want to enjoy it?
And truly enjoy it.
Yeah. So this can be with literally anything. But I think that that's like the first question that you should ask yourself when you're like, where do I get started? Well,
what do you want?
What do you want from this?
Yeah.
What are you trying to get from this? So we joke about it, but like setting, and dose.
Yeah.
But this kind of goes along with that intention. Depending on what your intention is, your setting, and dose are conducive to that intention for sure.
And it goes back to getting messages like, oh, I got fucked up in college. And it's like, well.
Or had a bad trip.
Right. Well, Bob.
You took a heroic dose.
And then went to a fucking concert with your friends and cried. And then your friends were like, stop crying, you little bitch. Like, right. Not the right dose.
Or nobody knows what to do with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're not in an environment that is going to support whatever heavy things that your mind is showing you.
Yeah. Okay. So start from the beginning. What is set?
Setting, and dose. Set is really just your mindset going in. We do not recommend doing something like this, any type of psychedelic, really, if you are in a very, very, very dark headspace.
So if let's say you just lost a loved one.
Yes. Or, going through a divorce.
Yeah. It may not be the right time. You may have to let some time. You may have to have some time to sit with whatever hardship you are experiencing before using a psychedelic.
Can I use the analogy? I've used it before, but like we are emotionally constipated as a society.
I love that.
And I've said this before, so forgive me, you guys. I just really like using this analogy, but we're emotionally constipated. I heard this from Psychedelic Passage, and I added to it because if you are coming out of a divorce or you have just lost someone, that's a lot of heavy shit that you're going to have to process a little bit over time before you go into some type of journey. Or it will like literally be explosive diarrhea all over you. But the analogy that I was going to use is like, they say psychedelics are like the laxative to someone who's emotionally constipated. And for me, what I added to it is like, for microdosing, if you're microdosing, that's like the stool softener before you take the laxative.
A heroic journey is like the full-on laxative.
Full-on, okay. Plumber's coming. He's emptying your shit out. He will no longer be emotionally constipated.
Such a good analogy.
I know, right? Let's talk about shit. But for me, like your mindset is whatever is stuck in there is going to be the thing that ends up coming out. And if you're not ready for that, Like you really have to be in a place mentally where you are prepared and you have coping skills in place that are there to help support you in that journey. Like breathing exercises or grounding yourself, and really having someone there to support you emotionally who can lend you their calm nervous system. So heroic journeys, that's a whole new thing. But the set is your mindset. Setting is where you are and who you're with, to be honest. Like the music around you, music plays a huge role in all of my journeys.
Oh God, yeah, for sure. And I have trip sat for people and have played a playlist and said, like, if there is any song that does not resonate with you, just tell me and I'll change the song.
Yeah.
And there have been times where people are like, I don't like that song.
Yeah.
Change it. Not
it.
So, and that's okay. So, but again, going back to like, I had a bad trip because I went with my buddies and I started crying and then they were making fun of me. Not the right people.
Right.
Not the right environment.
I also think it's really difficult if you are the one taking mushrooms and all your friends are like drinking or something. Like you feel very disconnected from the group in that way. Yeah. So that's another reason. Like I will do mushrooms with friends who are also doing mushrooms. I will not do mushrooms if I'm with people drinking. It's not a vibe.
Yeah.
Not a vibe.
I once Tony and I went to Vegas and we did mushrooms and then we went to a club. Not the vibe. Not that anything happened. I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
I did not feel a damn thing until I came home. And I think I didn't feel anything or until I came back to the hotel. But I think I didn't feel anything because it wasn't the right atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the right energy.
Yeah. So be mindful of that. The setting is important. And then the dose is like, it's hard to like say which one of these is most important.
It's like
they're equally as important.
Yeah.
Setting, and dose. Somebody said in our TikTok we should put that on a t-shirt. And I'm like, honestly,
we should.
Hey, Sister Brand, help us out.
Who makes her apparel?
Setting, and dose. The dose is, again, this is where I'm like, this is just as important. But like, we have a guideline on our Instagram, and I think we should like maybe pin it or something to the top of our page because I refer to it a lot. If you are doing a microdose, that is like 1/10 to 1/20 of a normal dose where you would feel something. So be mindful of that. A microdose, and we've said this before, we've done an episode on microdosing where it's like, if we're comparing it to alcohol, because that's the only thing we have to compare it to, or let's say a bottle of Tylenol, do you drink the entire bottle of wine or the entire bottle of Tylenol? You take the entire bottle of Tylenol and expect like to feel something? Yeah, you do. But a microdose would be like you dip your pinky into the fucking bottle of wine or tequila and
take
a little lick. It's not going to affect you on like a psychological level, but like it's doing stuff internally.
Yeah.
So you can function.
Yeah.
You can drive a car.
Yeah.
You can go out. You can go to work.
Yeah.
Highly encourage that.
Yes. But this is where I have to say, like, you have to do this responsibly.
Yeah.
We cannot stress this enough. So you're not going to go take an entire bottle of Tylenol.
Right.
And then be like, fuck the Tylenol.
Right.
Like, that's on you.
Yeah.
Where we hear a lot of stories of people taking way too much and being in the wrong situation with the wrong people. And it's like, well, you need to know how much you're taking.
Yeah.
And
I've watched people just eat handful after handful and have like a really bad time.
Oh, I've heard so many horror stories.
And I'm like that nerd who like always has my scale. Like nobody's going to have a bad time on my watch. Like we are not overdoing it. Like this is how much you get and you don't throw a fit. But yeah, the dose is super important because there is a threshold of dose that you're going to start feeling it. Like anything over, for some people who are more sensitive to it, anything over 0.5 grams, you're going to feel a little bit.
Oh, I feel a 0.5.
I've accidentally microdosed to 0.5 and worked on it, but like had a really great day. But I could definitely, I was like, ooh.
Did you see like graffiti on a train?
Yes.
And you're like, wow, that's so beautiful.
Like on our lunch break, like we're driving and I'm like mesmerized by the graffiti on the train. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that was more than a micro. I can tell. But I wasn't tripping and I was able to like finish the rest of my work day. It was fine. But that's where I can start to feel something. It's like not sub-perpetual anymore. It's a little bit perpetual.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then 1 gram is, you're going to feel that. So be very mindful of that. Anything over 3, you're going into that. It's going to be a bad time territory.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it's going to be a bad time as in like you're always going to have a bad trip, but it's going to be a bad time if you're not prepared for that type of journey.
Yes.
It's going to be really difficult for you.
Yeah. We know of people who have like taken 3 grams at home by themselves and it's like, no, with no preparation, just do it. Like,
Just to do it. Just to try it.
And to further specify, when we have talked to people about doing 3 grams or over, there is a protocol to follow, a very, very like strict protocol. Like before I do a heroic journey, I stay off social media for a week or 2. We don't eat meat.
Yep.
We
No
set
caffeine.
an intention, no caffeine. Like you fast the day of. There's integration work with that. Like I think
we basically give you homework. Like
Yeah.
you journal before, like get yourself in a good headspace. Like try not to have difficult conversations with people. Put them off if you have to.
Yeah.
So all of these, that kind of goes with like mindset too. Like don't get yourself in a headspace that's negative right before.
Yeah.
So that's a funny thing about dosing. Like one of the things I really, really love about our favorite gummies, the Colors gummies, is that it has dosing guidelines on the back. So like microdose is 1 to 3 and it's subperpetual. A therapeutic or social dose is 3 to 7. So if I were to like go to a concert with you, I would take 3 or 4 maybe. And then we're not going there, but you could do a large journey, but we're not going to promote that a little bit. No. That's for experienced users only. Not for beginners. We're not doing this for experienced users. Next thing is family history.
Okay.
Know your family history. Anyone who has a history of schizophrenia, psychosis, I think even bipolar, that's tricky. And I'm not saying that it can't help you, but what I am saying is you might need more than a trip sitter. You might need someone who is in this space professionally. Well, like a psychiatrist.
Yeah. And with that, we always recommend going to a psychedelic-assisted therapist if you are not sure.
100%.
To further look into that to see if you are a right fit for doing psychedelics. And you can find a psychedelic therapist at psychedelic.support.net, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's .net. It might just be psychedelic.support.
Okay.
That's
.com.
it. But I mean,
Okay.
it's
Whatever.
easy to find.
Okay. Psychedelic.support.
Yes.
Yes. You can type in your zip code, and then therapists will pop up that are in your area that can help you.
Yeah.
So I highly, highly, highly recommend that.
Yeah. Or they'll do Zoom meetings with you. Even a lot of them are
there's a lot
very
of
helpful
telehealth.
with like, you don't have to commit to like seeing this person for years. It's really like, hey, I'm doing this journey. Can you help me prepare for this? That's what they're there for. Like they will help you with that, which I absolutely love. Another website that's really good because it kind of goes with our next thing, medication interactions. Like if you're on medications, know what will and won't work with psilocybin or other psychedelics too, because when we did ayahuasca, there were a whole list of shit that we couldn't take.
Yeah.
And a whole list of things we couldn't eat.
Yeah.
They will interact with the medicine.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that. I don't know the website for sure, but there might, if you can like Google Fadiman medication interactions. Like I know that there's a website that James Fadiman started where it's a list of medications that you should not be on.
Fadiman.
Yes, Fadiman. Thank you. Yeah, so we can put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
But that's an important one because how many people have we had say they felt nothing on a large dose?
Yep.
And there's a reason for that. If you are on psychotropic medications, there's a high chance that this psilocybin will not work for you because they are working on the same receptors. Yeah. And it's like acting as like this block.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
And a lot of people message us and they're on an SSRI or on some type of benzo. And there is like a certain weaning off protocol, which again, we cannot stress enough. We do not recommend you to stop your medication cold turkey. You need to talk with your doctor about weaning off, but there needs to be some time in between from when you've weaned off the medication to then when you start with psychedelics.
Yeah.
So
not to like immediately jump into it.
Correct.
I think a lot of people
want to get off their SSRIs or get off their benzos and go right to.
Or they think that like coming off of them, doing psilocybin or microdosing is like a replacement for them. So they're like switching one out for the other. And that can be not so.
It can be a replacement, but not in the way that you think.
Right. This isn't going to do what your medicine is doing. And I think,
it's not going to numb the way that your medicine may numb.
So let's go to our next one, which is, the next one, I'm going to have to come back because with that is expectations. I think a lot of people expect this medicine to fix them. Mm-hmm. Or they'll go into a journey thinking, this is what my intention is, and so this is what I'm going to get. Mm-hmm. That's not what the intention is for. It helps to have an intention, but a lot of times you don't get what you want. You get what you need out of the journey. So any expectations you have about like what it's going to be like or what you're going to get from it, like don't have them. Just throw them out the door, throw them out the window.
I've had a lot of people reach out, or we have had a lot of people reach out. One example is they started microdosing and they're like, and they got off SSRIs and they're like, I'm feeling anxious. And I'm like, well, maybe you should get curious about that anxiousness. Yeah. And like dive into that a little bit deeper because maybe your body's telling you that it needs something and you're wanting to suppress it and ignore it because that's what the medication did.
Right.
But this is not that.
Yeah.
This is like we're supposed to feel things to heal things.
Well, and this is going to amplify it for you because it's trying to give you the answer.
It's like, bitch, wake up.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, like I think you and I both have said before, like we used to really struggle with anxiety and now I don't struggle with it. I am friends with it because I know when it's showing up, there's something that it's trying to tell me. It doesn't show up in my day-to-day life the way that it used to because my life was so chaotic and not what it was supposed to be that I was feeling it 24/7.
I think we are a society that it's pretty normalized that we're very disconnected with ourselves.
Yeah.
When you do these medicines correctly and you know that they are a catalyst, but ultimately you're doing the work.
Right.
Over time, you are able to get closer to home, which is yourself.
Yeah.
And so when things are off, you are able to detect that much earlier because you know yourself way more than you ever have.
I mean, you're like playing detective, basically. You're like, hold on. I don't feel at home. I don't feel at peace. Something is going on around me. What is shaking me this bad? What's shaking me up? What's causing this anxiety in me?
What do I need to change?
Are there people around me that I don't need to be around? Is it only when I'm at work? Do I need to change my career? Is it around a specific person? Is it when a certain topic gets brought up? Like those types of things, like if that's what's like making you anxious, like it's really important that you sit with that. But So to your point, like that expectation that like this is going to just fix that and make it
Right.
go away, it's almost going to amplify that and force you to sit with it.
Yeah.
Another commenter on TikTok said, I tried microdosing for a while and it made me a raging bitch. And I talked to her about it, and I sent her to like one of our episodes, but I was like, what have you been suppressing? Like, what type of anger have you been holding in to try to be the good girl? And why is it trying to force itself out of you? Like, it's not for no reason. And it's not, the microdosing didn't make you angry. It's bringing that out of you because you've been ignoring it for a long time.
And I think too, like finding peace within yourself requires work.
Yeah.
It's not, there is no magic pill. And so
that expectation.
You have to understand that going into it, and you have to be the one willing to do the work.
And I don't know that everybody is willing.
Yeah, so then it's not right for you.
And they'll start doing this work and then immediately stop because it gets really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It gets really, we know that. We know how uncomfortable this work gets.
But with uncomfortability comes growth.
Yeah.
And with uncomfortability comes healing and evolving. And so it's like, life is hard anyways. For me, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
I'll choose my hard. And that usually that hard is choosing myself.
Yeah.
And what I need.
Yeah.
So, anywho.
Yeah. So that's a good one. Expectations. The next one is like research. This is a hard one too, because I feel like this should be number one or maybe even number two.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Yeah.
Know what you're doing. This goes along with like all of like the knowing your family history, knowing the medicines that you're on, knowing what substance you're taking, and understanding it to a degree that like is unquestionable.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes back to, you're not going to drink a bottle of tequila. Right. You're not just going to drink a bottle of tequila. Now, I know you like physically can't because it tastes like fucking shit.
Some people can.
I know some people can, but like, you're not going to drink it like it's like some fucking water.
Right.
But you also know and have an understanding, like if I do, I'm going to be hurting.
I'm going to have a bad day tomorrow.
I'm going to have a rough fucking time. You're not going to take a bottle of Tylenol unless you're wanting to hurt yourself.
Right.
It's the same thing with this.
Yeah.
Don't blindly listen to what we say or what anybody else says. You have to be your own advocate. You have to be your own advocate and know what you're doing. So whether if you're going the clinical route or you're going the underground route, you know the questions to ask, and you have enough, like at least like a base point of knowledge.
Right.
So you have an idea of what you're doing.
Or here's another like little side thing with that. Like, you know enough about it that if you are with like a group of close friends and one of your friends starts going through something difficult, you're not poking fun at them or like upset with them. You're able to support them, even if you're like also like in that space, because you know what's happening.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wait, like they must have, it's bringing up something for them and they're having a hard time. Let me go sit with that person. Let me help them. Let me ground them. Instead of being like, you need to snap out of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so if you do your research, and we have a resource page on our website,
literally just going to say it,
that has so many, like the best documentaries, some of our favorite documentaries and movies. There are books to read, and I know that's like a little bit harder, but like if you watch some of these documentaries and you have a basic understanding of what these medicines do, you'll be better prepared for what happens.
Yeah.
And when it does.
And our website is syotospodcast.com. That's SYOTOS, like see you on the other side. Syotospodcast.com. Great resources for you.
So we already touched on like micro, macro, and heroic doses. So it's just, again, we'll find a way to like clip that to our page or maybe just share it again. macro doses are what I like to call like museum doses too, because you can literally like take it, go to the museum, like everything's like, you don't have to, when we say stuff about like going to concerts and festivals, like you don't have to do that. Like it's fun too to just go to a museum and appreciate art with somebody that you love.
Yeah.
So another one is grounding exercises. This is another reason we kind of say and hesitate to say, or we warn you not to do this after like a big life-changing event, because you are going to want to practice holding space for uncomfortable feelings before you ever get to a large journey. And I think that's where people get it wrong when they come off their meds, that they're used to numbing those feelings and they go straight into a journey. They don't have any of those coping skills or those grounding techniques. They're used to numbing. So it makes it more uncomfortable for you to feel some really dark things without those practices in place.
Yeah. And again, when I was talking about, people were like, oh, I had a really bad fucking trip. And then they start telling me about their experience. And I'm like, oh, you had feelings and lessons come up?
Right.
You had feelings that you needed to feel, and you had lessons that you needed to see, but you were unwilling to see or feel them.
You weren't ready for it.
It was a bad trip because you weren't ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hate to break it to you, but you are blaming the medicine instead of yourself for using it irresponsibly.
Yeah. And you and I have said this before in an episode, but like, if you don't respect the medicine bites back.
Oh, yeah, it does.
So a lot of times it'll be like, bitch, sit down. You're not ready for this.
Yeah.
And it will fuck you up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like, let me hurt you with some truth a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me show you your shit a little bit.
This medicine has been around for thousands of years, probably longer than that. And they are sacred for a reason. They've been used with indigenous cultures for medicine and for healing for a very, very long time. So if you don't have respect to it, like, I'm going to just bluntly say this, you don't deserve to do it.
You shouldn't be doing it.
You should not be doing it if you're not going to respect it.
Well, and I think that that's the thing. Like, that person who it was showing them like really dark shit and they weren't prepared for that. Like, when you are going into a heroic journey type situation and you're working with a guide, you're preparing for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you're like, okay, and this is what's if this comes up, just sit with it.
Yeah.
Sit with it, feel it, and it'll pass.
Right.
And it always does. But like, you're working with someone who's helping you prepare for those uncomfortable feelings and uncomfortable truths. But most of the time you're ready and willing.
Right.
You're like, all right, ready.
Right.
I'm ready to change my life.
Right.
Show me where I'm going wrong.
Well, and that's another thing that people get wrong is I think people have stereotyped us like we are just like two fucking moms who are just like fucking doing drugs every weekend.
Right.
And I'm like, trust me, if you knew to the extent of what we were doing and why we were doing it, yes, are they profound and healing? For sure. They've helped us heal our childhood trauma. They've helped us with our depression. They've helped us with our anxiety. But it's not a thing where you get done doing it and you're like, let me do that next weekend. Like,
same time next week.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
no,
I'm going to sit with this for a solid year because that fucked my world up in the best way possible.
I will admit, like, the first time I ever did it, I was like, I will never have to do that again. I am glad I did that, but I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
And our psychiatrist, shout out Dr. Sheely, I was resistant to doing it again for quite a while because I was afraid I was going to be dependent on it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And he was just like,
it's not like
you
that.
haven't touched it in over a year.
Right.
Like, you're not dependent on it. You're using it as a tool to get you out of another situation, like an unstuck situation. Like, you need to get yourself out of this muck.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we talk about that. But like, so yeah, I did it again, and it was like over a year later, and it was necessary.
Yeah.
And it pulled me out of a really, really dark spot. But I was so afraid to do it again.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, no. Every year, I will be doing at least a journey before the holidays.
Yeah.
100%.
Sometimes, depending on what's going on, if there's
Yes.
a lot of craziness, it could be like 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do another one.
Sometimes those retreats, like if you go to a retreat, they've got you doing medicine 3 to 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
And then they recommend you come back in like another 3 months. And it depends on like how much work you're trying to do. But this work is exhausting.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a journey every 3 months.
Well, and okay, on a smaller scale and maybe a better analogy that people would understand, if you go and you do a 2-hour therapy session, the next day you're not like, let's go to therapy again. Granted, that could have been a really profound healing. A lot of things got answered, that you were given a lot of tools, but it's something that you want to sit with for a little bit. It's not something like you're like, let's do this tomorrow. Like,
yeah, nobody wants to do that.
So I guess maybe that might be an analogy that people might understand a little bit better.
Yeah. Fun doses, now that's different.
Sure.
But even that, like you can't do every weekend. Like it's like
even with microdosing, you can't do it every day.
you're not supposed to do it every day. You build up a tolerance to it. And so yeah. I wonder if we have time to talk about this. Let's skip that one. Okay. For beginners, one of the things that I always recommend is keeping a dosing journal. And this is with any dose, like small, micro, large dose, medium-sized dose. Because when you are starting out, for me, and I think for you too, like because we're both 3/5s in human design, we experiment and then we talk about it. Mm-hmm. I liked to experiment with my doses. And so I will start slow. Like I'll the whole term, like start low, go slow. And that holds to this as well as to microdosing. But if you are wanting to take, a gram for a concert, maybe start with 0.5, especially if it's your first time. Experiment on your own time. That way, if you are out in public, it's not a bad time.
Yeah.
Like
even people who are getting ready to do a heroic journey, they start with microdosing and it's like, okay, you want to experiment a little bit more, then do a 0.5.
Yeah.
And then maybe a few months down the road,
do 1. 100%.
Jinx.
And journal about it.
Right.
Write down like how you were feeling, like what came up for you, how out of it you were, because you're probably not, but like that way you are like understanding how the medicine works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 7 grams is a lot different than 1.
7 grams?
It's like another medicine.
Yeah, you're going to a different dimension, brother.
Like that's a totally different experience. So it's like everybody thinks mushrooms are the same, but it's like, no, like the doses are so very different. And that's where you get those like different experiences from. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So keep a dosing journal. The integration for the end.
Fucking huge.
How to integrate an experience when the lessons aren't so obvious, and also how to integrate good and challenging trips. So, I will say this, my husband's first journey, he did not integrate. He had a good trip. He had a great one. It pulled him out of a really deep, dark depression. And for months he was coasting, and he went right back to drinking and didn't integrate anything, went right back to everyday life. And I was like fighting him every day. Like, you wasted that. You wasted a trip. He was like, what do you mean? It got me out of my depression. And I'm like, and you're going to be right back there because you're doing exactly the same stuff.
Yeah. So
we found Dr. Sheely. He is a psychedelic-assisted therapist here in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was like, why don't you see this guy? And he was like, I mean, that was months ago. It's not going to do anything now. It's too late. And I was like, actually, it's never too late to integrate. And Dr. Sheely has said this too. And I'm pretty sure it's on his website. Like you can, if you had a bad trip 10 years ago, you can talk with someone and they can help you make sense of it.
Yeah.
But on that note, I think sometimes it's harder to integrate a positive experience.
I have a perfect example.
Give it to us.
So, there's someone I know, and she had a really, really amazing journey, heroic journey, where she felt home with her body. She felt so much love with herself. She felt so much confidence, and it was very, very good. Fast forward to, like, again, if we're talking to you and we're talking to you about this, we're like, integrate, because if you don't take those lessons and implement it into your life, your everyday life, you're going to go back to the same old ways and feel the same that you were feeling before. And so she was like, okay, so I had this like really amazing experience, but I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel tangible for her.
Like it was love and light.
Right.
What do I do with
mean?
that?
What does that mean? And so I pretty much told her, I said, anything that doesn't feel like that, get curious about it, whether it's a job, people, your environment, whatever. Get curious about that and kind of like dissect. Do you want to keep that in your life if it doesn't feel like home, it doesn't feel like peace, it doesn't feel like love?
Yeah. Like, don't forget that feeling.
Right. And anything that makes you feel not that, it may not be the right thing for you.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you have a really challenging journey where the lesson is very
like, get your shit together.
Like, yeah, stop drinking, stop doing drugs, stop doing this, whatever. So I'll just use me as a personal example. My last journey that I did was last summer, and I felt all the trauma of all my ancestors, and I was sweating more than I've ever sweat in my life, and I hate being cold, and I sat in a cold bath for like 2 hours because that's how hard it was to recover from that. I'm like, man, like I've had to deal with my own trauma. Now I got to feel everyone in my whole family lineage just trauma. Like, what the fuck, bro? But the lesson in that was very clear, and it was to stop holding on to the things that weren't even yours to carry.
Yeah.
And so I had to carry that for a little bit, everyone's trauma, to then realize like, oh, fuck, this isn't even mine.
It's not mine.
I need to let it go. That was not a fun day. It took a while for me to recover from it.
Yeah.
But it was very clear of what I needed to integrate into my life.
Like,
moving
don't hold
forward.
on to
the
these
message
things that aren't
was
yours.
Yeah, the message was like very clear. But that was not like a rainbows and unicorns and
right,
sunshine. Like, it was not that.
So
it was my favorite.
I was just going to say my favorite ever was my second one, where it was like my lesson in loving myself. And it was really learning that like nobody had been abandoning me as much as I had been abandoning myself. And I was so afraid of being abandoned.
Yeah.
Like, those wounds run deep. And that lesson was like, girl, you've been doing it more than anybody.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
Yeah.
And that was like so clear to me.
Yeah.
And easy to, not easy. It was not easy to integrate. It was clear. And I had to work really, really hard to get to a place where it felt comfortable for me putting myself first.
Ooh. Yeah, that's deep. And
so that integration is like, that's hard.
Yeah.
We highly recommend working with someone if you're unsure how to integrate an experience.
Yeah.
And again, you can go to psychedelic support.
Well, and to add to that, we're all guilty of it. I've been very guilty of it, where I pointed fingers at everyone else and everyone that everyone else was doing and how they were affecting my life.
Right.
The mushrooms isn't gonna bring that up.
No.
It's gonna bring how you are fucking your own life up.
Yeah.
And you are sabotaging you.
Haven't we said this? Like, some people are afraid of it because of the things that it might show up for them. And we're like, it's not going to be about anybody but you, boo-boo.
Yeah.
Like, this is your medicine.
Right.
This is your medicine.
Yeah.
It's not going to bring up other people. I mean, not in the way that you think it is, but like, I think you were so afraid of what was going to show up. And it was like, oh, it's me.
Yep. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Yeah. No, where it's like, when someone goes to therapy and then they just bitch about the people.
Right.
It's like
you're venting.
Right. You should be going to therapy to figure out what your shadows are and work on that. That's what mushrooms bring up.
I mean, that's why these are so different than therapy. Like, this is like, they say, like, it's like 10 years of therapy in 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah. You can't hide.
No.
There's no hiding.
And can you imagine like how uncomfortable that is for people who aren't ready to face themselves?
Yeah. That's a big and heavy realization when you're like, oh, fuck, it's been me the entire time.
Yeah.
Granted, we become that way because of unfair things.
Right. And it also doesn't
happen.
Yes.
But sometimes we get out of those situations and we stay a victim.
Okay, well, I'm going to use my marriage as an example. I was very much a victim because my husband was an addict and an alcoholic, and I'd gone through so much, and in someone who's unhealed, they would see that and be like, but you were the victim. And where I am now, I would say I let myself be.
Yeah.
I didn't defend myself. I didn't stand up for myself. I was a people pleaser. I avoided a lot of really hard conversations to keep the peace.
But I think unhealed you like the chaos.
I don't know that I liked it. I didn't know any different because it was my entire childhood.
That's what I should say. You grew up in chaos, so that was
it wasn't that unfamiliar to me.
Yeah, it's not that you like it because you don't like it,
right?
But
I knew something was off.
But I had toxic partners,
right?
Because I was used to living in a toxic home.
So it's not gonna, like, a lot of times, a lot of people are like, "But I'm not the problem," and I'm like, I wasn't the only problem, but I was a problem also.
Yeah.
My environment was also a problem, and I had to change my environment in order to get to a place of peace.
And this is random, but it's not random. But what do we say about people pleasers? They are the closest thing to a narcissist.
They are, and it's really uncomfortable to know that.
Hey.
And I have said that, like, that's also why, like, I'm like, people pleasing is not the flex you think it is. Yeah. Like, you are closer to a narcissist than not.
Right.
Because you are manipulating people into liking you, and it's not even the authentic version of you.
Right. And it's very ego driven.
Yeah, it is. And I will admit that. I've said it before. Like, I was that person who was putting on masks to please other people and please like me and think the world of me. And it was never authentic to myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's another difference though. Like, how do you heal a narcissist? You make them become aware. And a lot of them are unwilling to be self-aware. Yeah. So as soon as you're aware of it, you can make changes forward.
Yeah.
That's the first step anyway. Yeah. All right. I don't know.
Good episode.
I know. You have anything to add to that?
No.
I really think if you are a beginner in this space, I think our podcast has a lot of material for you.
With our website.
Yes.
Get started with that. Just start learning a little bit.
Yeah. We have episodes on microdosing. We have episodes on heroic doses. We have episodes on other psychedelic uses and how they work for you. So on that note, stay curious, be open. We'll see you guys on the other side.
Bye.